we're ready.
Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Can I please have a roll call?
Director Baker,
Present.
Director Case,
Here.
Director Diaz,
Here.
Director Foley, Director Hamilton,
Here.
Director Mendieta Ramos, Director Mays,
Here.
Director Olson,
Here.
Director Wilson.
Here.
Thank you. Are we in compliance with the open meetings law?
Yes, we are in compliance with the open meetings law.
Thank you. Beth, have we received any requests for comments from the public?
Yes, we received a request from Kelly Mulvana, faculty.
Okay, is that the only request?
Yes.
Okay. Is she on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Hello, I'm Kelly Mulvana, a full-time faculty member. You will see on the separation list that Dr. Arturo Martinez is retiring from MATC, and this is a huge loss. A very truncated announcement was sent to the MATC community, but it didn't scratch the surface of the mark that Dr. Martinez has made on MATC and Milwaukee. Dr. Martinez has accepted a cabinet-level position with the Community College of Southern Nevada to be the executive director of the Division of Workforce and Economic Development. While at MATC, Dr. Martinez created the Spanish Dental Assistant Program, helped to create the Office of Bilingual Education, developed linkages within Milwaukee's workforce agencies, and led the College Adult Basic Education Program, which serves students seeking their GED or HSED. He's received numerous outstanding national and local recognitions. His community involvement includes the LULAC National Board, the Wisconsin Hispanic Scholarship Foundation, the Milwaukee Co-op Center, and Forward Latino. He was instrumental in forming the LULAC Brewers Scholarship Award in collaboration with the Hispanic team players to provide scholarships to Hispanic students to attend MATC. He's made presentations and served as expert at state as well as national conferences on MATC's integrated education programs and co-requisite models for underprepared ABA students. He's been instrumental in the development of the Walker Square Education Center and has linked Maximus and Milwaukee Job Centers to be housed there. His efforts have helped increase enrollment of classes at Walker Square through many programs which made college a reality to many of our students who otherwise would not have been able to enroll. Dr. Martinez has written countless grants that have brought millions of dollars to MATC, and the number of FTEs his programs have generated equate to approximately 50% of the community education's sub-pathways FTE count. Before MATC misguidedly combined the two largest FTE generating schools, liberal arts and pre-college, into what we now call general education, we had just under a dozen administrators overseeing programming, scheduling, innovations, and grants for liberal arts, ESL, adult basic education, which includes on-campus, as well as multiple community-based organizations, adult high school, as well as our GED, HSED, and GED 509 programs. Without Arturo, we now have two administrators, Dr. Sadiq Isahaku and Dr. Valencia Brown. To say he leaves very big shoes to fill is an understatement, and I hope that the board sees the importance of finding a replacement with equal or even more vision and talents. In fact, I believe it's imperative. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. As you're aware, the board does not respond to them due to the state of Wisconsin's open meetings law, but we do appreciate your coming and sharing your comments with us. Thank you. The administration is now asking that we kindly take item C under the health and safety update and COVID risk mitigation strategies, due to where that is located and our speaker, our doctor on campus, in order to move that out of order to accommodate her personal request. So if nobody has any objection to that, I would like to move to that item. It's near the end of your agenda right now. And I would like to do that. So I will turn that over right now. I don't know if Dr. Josie is on or who will be starting with that. There she is. Welcome.
Thank you. So good evening, Director Baker and our MATC Board of Directors. The request was made for us to come back at this meeting and give a report regarding our vaccination rate on campus. There were slides for this presentation. I'm wondering if we can bring those slides up. Thank you. We can go to next slide. There was also a request to just briefly discuss the MATC COVID-19 Dashboard. So the links are in this slide, but there's 3 displays that are on the dashboard. The first display is just a daily report of cases. So that display is actually not shown on the screen. The second display is weekly cases. So how many cases have occurred on campus during a 7-day period. So from October 19th through October 25th, there were 3 cases on campus. The weekly display starts with June. So it covers June, July up into our current week. And then the last display is cumulative cases. So these are cumulative cases for the fall semester on campus, and this has a start date of August 1st. So total right now, even as of today, we've had 122 cases on campus, and then the cases are displayed by groups, so by students, employee, by campus, and or by vendor. So those are our COVID dashboard that is available for our employees and or for the public to view related to COVID cases on campus.
I'm going to pause you a second here. We have a question by Director Baker.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, thanks. Right, and I had raised this question. I appreciate that the administration has shared the dashboard, with us, and that I try and check in on it every once in a while. But we do rate ourselves, like whether we're yellow, green, orange, that sort of thing. And I don't quite understand how we can get a hold of it when it's all self-reporting. I mean, we have a lot of students who come and go, and all we know are the students who actually tell us that they got sick and, didn't come to class or something. And so I'm not, it's difficult for me to understand how we know what's actually happening on campus and what potential risks there are because of the nature of the reporting. Can you help me with that?
Sure. So cases are either reported by the students themselves, their faculty members, so they report to faculty that they won't be on campus because they tested positive for COVID or they were exposed or they're feeling sick and they're having symptoms of COVID. They'll say, I won't be in class today. It's the same component with our employees. So employees would do usually the same thing, or they email employee COVID. And then the third scenario is the health department will actually reach out to us and say a student was on campus on this date, this is the student's name, and this was the date they tested positive. So those are usually the most common ways in which cases are reported.
May I follow up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I understand that, but that's all still, it's self-reporting unless we have a situation where the health department is calling us. So we really don't know what the situation is on campus. All we know are the things that our students tell us, or the students tell their instructor, or in one of our employees reports to us, but it's all self-reporting. And so it's not actual data about potential risk and risk management on the campus. Is that correct?
Well, the only other way we would know positives is if we were linked into the testing database. So to the best of my knowledge, that's how all businesses determine positive cases, is through self-reporting, unless they're an entity that actually is testing or has access to the state database.
Yes, and I think I'm sort of saying that doing some kind of testing might give us a better actual feel for what's happening on our campus, even if it was, sampling or something like that, rather than just self-reporting. And there are quite a number of institutions which do some form of regular testing, particularly educational institutions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Please continue.
Okay. Next slide, please. At our prior meeting, we discussed the plan for employees and for students to be able to disclose their vaccination status. For employees, this was a requirement. And so the first deadline date was October 15th. The second deadline date was October 21st at 6 p.m. for all employees to upload their vaccine status. There are really three statuses. So they either chose not to be vaccinated at this time. That's a declination. They requested an accommodation, and accommodations could be medical or religious, or they uploaded proof of vaccination. So for our total employee strength, we have 2,019 employees. That includes our staff and our faculty. Of that group, 1,635 individuals were vaccinated. And so that is how we have the rate of 81% for fully vaccinated as of October 22nd. The other three groups, again, are going to be individuals who at that point have chosen not to be vaccinated. Our accommodations, at that time, there were 119 records that were in progress, meaning they still had to be reviewed in the viewpoint system. But of those 119, there were 28 who had completed partial doses of a 2-dose series. Next slide, please. Originally, or at the onset of viewpoint, the college had determined a base rate or a threshold goal of 80% for vaccination. Because that goal was met, the college is not at this time pursuing a vaccine mandate. I know we discussed a little bit last month about how the 80% was determined, and it was determined based on population standards around herd immunity, just meaning when enough individuals have been vaccinated, you don't see the virus circulating enough that anyone would become sick. So while at the population level, we have not achieved herd immunity, we are at a high enough rate based on an 80% to say that we have a certain level of vaccination, a higher level of vaccination on campus than an unknown level of vaccination. So when we look at this, again, I don't know, we can readily send links related to the 80%. It has kind of been established at the national as well as the local level. One thing that's important is that just because that rate is 80%, that doesn't mean that we don't need to continue to advocate for first dose vaccinations as well as booster vaccinations. Otherwise, you're not going to have a consistent level of immunity within your population on campus. Next slide, please.
May I ask the question?
Yes.
Yes, please.
And I know that I was the person who asked a lot of these questions last time, so I'm sort of following up. I really appreciate you providing us with the information. I also think that the 81% getting that in our initial ask from what our employees have been doing is fabulous. I am going to sort of raise questions though, because if we're going to define a herd in MATC, I don't believe that that herd is just our employees. We again have thousands and thousands of students on the campus, and I realize that we are in the process of gathering information from our students, but I'm very uncomfortable with 80% as a benchmark when we are talking about you gave a number 1,600 people who represent that 80%, where we also have tens of thousands of students in and out, and other people, vendors and whatever, in and out of our buildings. So our herd is actually much larger than the 2,000 some employees that we have. And so I still think that we are teetering on a risky situation. I'm delighted that case numbers across the country and in Wisconsin are on their way down. But I do think that we should start looking at some of our peers in the business community. I was really excited to read the newspaper this morning and see that Tyson Foods, who did a vaccine mandate, is now 96% vaccinated. And that's a national company that, well, whatever. I think that we still have steps that we need to take in order to be providing a safe and healthy place for our students and our employees to be working. And I do not think 80% of one group in a building represents herd immunity.
Thank you. I would agree. So when we have our plan laid out, we did proceed to kind of lay it out in a step fashion, looking at what was the group that we readily could collect the data from, understanding that we would need to take multiple approaches with our students. So I'll go ahead. I'll keep going to our next slide. So I'll go, let me see. Our next steps is along the lines of what you mentioned earlier regarding testing. So for our individuals who have elected not to be vaccinated at this time, or for individuals who did not complete the records in Viewpoint, and individuals who requested accommodations, we will request that it be mandatory testing. They'll test every 2 weeks. And so when we look at the testing, those guidelines will be determined. We know that they'll test. So when they receive notification regarding approval of their accommodation, they'll be given a guidance for testing and when it will occur, as well as testing locations. So even with the testing on campus, employees actually have to sign saying that they're releasing their results to the college. But we do work with an external vendor who provides those COVID test results. And if there are any positive results, they, number one, are going to contact the individual, but they also contact the college. We continue to have our on-campus clinics. And so at our clinics, boosters vaccinations are being given, as well as first dose vaccines for our students and our employees and the public, as well as our seasonal vaccinations such as flu, shingles, immunizations of those nature. Again, a lot of education has to continue regarding booster vaccination, which vaccinations are appropriate, the timing of the vaccination, as well as COVID-19 safety around the holidays and travel. Again, understanding that the best practices, we want to make sure as a college that we're utilizing best practices, so we stay in communication with other colleges and other entities that mirror our population as well. The individuals who chose not to be vaccinated as of the 22nd actually still can be vaccinated and change their status in the Viewpoint system. They would just upload proof of vaccination. So our ongoing efforts on campus to mitigate risk are still in place. None of those have been lessened or decreased related to the vaccination rate. Next slide, please. Our students at this time are still ongoing with collection of their status. The 80% goal was set for students as well. The deadline for our students is November 15th. So we continue to have engagement strategies around ways to connect with our students so they actually do take advantage of the incentive that we have on campus, as well as just alerting the college regarding their vaccination status. Next slide, please. Phase 2 for students, because we do know that this is a larger group again, and this information was presented last month, but it still is to look at the student groups who are able to upload their data, who willingly disclose this information, to look at the incentives. Maybe different types of incentives need to be created for our students. to possibly look at surveillance testing, which is a percentage of students are tested from high exposure programs, and also to have vaccination efforts that may be more targeted to high risk programs. Next slide. Are there any questions at this time?
Director Baker?
I'll follow up. So, Chair Olson, I don't know if this is a matter for us as the board versus Dr. Veal. And Dr. Veal, I totally appreciate your presentation and the detail. But I think we hold a responsibility for the health and safety of our students and our employees, and I'm very concerned. And I'm very concerned. Again, 80% of our employees, I'm delighted to see that number, but that is not 80% of all the people who are in our buildings. We are still looking, obviously, to get the data on our students, but we're, ticking our way into the colder season where people are indoors. And I'm very concerned about where we're heading. And so I don't know how we as a board continue the conversation with the administration on what is a next step, on how we can up that 80% number amongst our own employees, and how we can improve the numbers with our students, what strategies we can use so that we can see some positive stuff. And we know that we are doing everything in our power to provide the safety and health that all of our students and staff need. And I'd be very curious what my colleagues think.
Are you asking beyond the strategies that they just shared with us that they will be doing to gather more? Or I guess, because I saw in the presentation from Dr. Veal that there were strategies both for employees and for students. So I guess, are you asking beyond that, or what was the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Beyond that. If we're really going to push vaccinations on students, there's a whole strategy to leveraging other students, to doing regular testing, to looking at programs where transfer issues or employment issues are going to be affected if students are not vaccinated, particularly healthcare, manufacturing. There's a variety, and it's not my job to get into that level of detail. That's really for, Dr. Martin and her staff to figure out, but we as a board can direct more, detailed strategies. We can also direct mandates or methods for upping the number of employees who are vaccinated so that we are providing at least more protection in the group of people who we have who we are the employer for. So again, I'd be very curious what my colleagues think of this, but I'm concerned we're not doing everything in our power to help guide the administration on creating a very safe environment.
I can open it up. I guess what I would say is that, I don't think the board gets in the weeds, I think, as you stated, with the details and the strategies in that. And so I want to be very clear that there was strategies that were just presented to us about moving forward with dates and getting to 80% by students and some strategies around that. So I guess I will, if other board members want to jump in but I guess our time today was not around deciding which strategies administration should be used specifically. So I guess I don't want to use our time today because I don't know that any of us are medical experts. So I guess the question for me is that, so I'm going to open it up to people if there's any appetite to talk about this or what that means, I guess. Director Hamilton.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I was just going to add that, we went through a process at the city where we mandated for city employees to actually take to be vaccinated with some pushback, and I wouldn't say it was without any controversy, but but by and large, most people are embracing it as a way of trying to curb the impact of the pandemic. But it seems from the presentation that there's that we're making progress with the strategies that are being implemented. And I understand the difficulty of being able to measure that, but that's, you know, I don't think that changes with any new efforts that we may have. But if it's working and we're seeing positive results with the strategies that are being implemented, I don't see the need from a board perspective to direct anything different from the direction that's been presented to us. If it seems to be working, and we're from the numbers that was just presented today by Dr. Veal, we're doing better than we are at the city with more stringent mandates. So if we can have the impact here at MATC without those, I would support the direction that the administration just presented.
Thank you. Others? Director Case?
Yep, thanks. So I want to kind of piggyback on Director Hamilton's comments. In my role, I have done a ton of industry benchmarking. We see what's coming out of Washington. We see what everybody's doing. I have full trust and confidence in what our administration is doing and what Dr. Martin is leading under her leadership. I do not feel like we need to get into the weeds. I do not feel like we need to undermine the work that they're doing. It is clearly working. It is on track with what I'm seeing elsewhere. So I do not think that we need to dig in any further or question or undermine any of the work that they're doing.
Well, I don't know if we should say that another board member is undermining the work that the staff is doing. I think
I didn't say that. I said I don't think we as a board need to undermine the work that they're doing. I didn't say anything about any other board member.
Okay, I apologize then. I'm so sorry, Director Case. I guess I'm concerned. We too, like Director Hamilton, have a mandate. And my only concern is that if you look at the population at MATC, it's from young to my age, and of course I'm young, but at my age, and I think we need to make sure that we're doing everything that's necessary to ensure that everybody is protected from the federal level down to the city level and other places. There are mandates and there are other things, and I get it. Nobody wants to do mandates. Nobody really wants to have to do any of this, but I think that the staff has done a wonderful job. I just, I get what Director Baker is saying too. So if we're going to say that we're just going to let it go, then I would like a report back in a couple of months to make sure things are going as well as they are, because it doesn't take long for things to get out of control, whether it's COVID, driving down the streets or whatever it is. It doesn't take long for it to get out of control. So in a couple months, I'd like to have another report and see, are we still doing this wonderful job that we're doing today?
Thank you, Director Wilson. I think our plans are to have it on our monthly meeting as we have been for the last couple months. So that will be met. So you won't have to wait a couple months. You'll actually get it in 1 month. So I just want to, for a couple of directors who haven't spoken yet, I want to make sure that you have an opportunity, and I do see your hand up, Director Baker, but I want to make sure Director Diaz or Director Mays, do you have anything that you would like to? No, no obligation, just wondering. Sure, Director Diaz.
Sorry, I couldn't find my little hand to put it in there. But just to, I understand the concern of Director Baker that we want to make sure everybody's safe. But I think there is something that we can do as much as we can, but we cannot control from the outside in. So usually the waves come in, it kind of sweeps through, and as much as we like to kind of put a shield over our institution, I think there's a factor in there as well. So I appreciate the concern of Dr. Baker, and I think we all share that. But the reality is that if we keep monitoring and the numbers keep going the way we are seeing them going right now, and I'm pretty pleased with the numbers that we see so far. I guess if we just keep monitoring, and then if things go the wrong direction, we can probably come and rethink our strategy, I think. But for so far, so good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to say that I was just going to agree with that. I think that Dr. Veal and her team have done as much as they can, providing information via the dashboard. And I think if there's a spike in any cases, then I think then the administration and her team can certainly review that. So I'm certainly comfortable with where we are right now.
Can I ask for a clarification? My understanding is that we are masked indoors right now. Is that correct? Okay, so I want to remember that in other workplaces that isn't a case on top of vaccination. So I just wanted to remind people that in addition to the vaccination status, if it's both people being vaccinations, that also is another layer of protection on top of it. So I understand that nothing is foolproof, but I just want to make sure that I was remembering it correctly. Director Baker, your hand is up.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing from my colleagues about this, and I respect people's opinion, and I do hope people respect mine, and that my intention is never to micromanage this administration. I'm very aware of my role, and my intention is also not to be critical of the work that was done. I thought I was very clear that I was very pleased and was complimentary to the presenter and to the administration. I do think that the board has every authority and right to look at all kinds of processes in the college and raise questions and help in providing direction. I think that's an appropriate role for us to play. But I have heard my colleagues, and I think we're all going to take a wait and see approach on this, and hope that the general quieting down in the community of the virus will also help us with our student population. So thank you so much for hearing my concerns.
Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Veal, for your presentation and information and entertaining questions tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'll see everyone again next month.
Yeah, thank you. We will resume the order of our agenda, which is with item 4, the approval of the minutes. So could I have a motion for the approval of the minutes from our regular board meeting on September 28th, 2021?
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Case, we have a motion by Director Mays and a second by Director Case to approve the minutes from September 28th, 2021. Does anybody have any discussion or things they want to address on there? If none, we will take a vote to approve the minutes from September 28th. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great, those have been approved. Next, we will move on to the approval of the consent agenda items, which includes the bills from September 2021, the financial report from September 2021, the human resources report, and the procurement report. Could I have a motion for approval of those consent agenda items?
I move approval.
Okay, Director Baker, is there a second?
Second.
Director Mays has a second. Are there any questions on any of the consent agenda items? Director Baker.
My little hand guy in the corner here is going to get tired. I'm sorry. And if you're looking for him, Director Diaz, he's in the reactions area. So I have 3 questions on 3 separate items.
Okay.
Would you like me just to put them all out and then the administration can figure out who appropriately answers?
Yes, if they are, we could do that. They may be the same person or differently, but it would be, yeah, if we hear all of them, then that person could address them all or give it to somebody else, correct?
I definitely see one of the people can answer, just like popped up on our screen. So, last month we looked at the financial report and I was just, could we just hear, are we moving closer to target? We were kind of, little bit dramatically off target, but it looks like we may be moving a little closer. And so that was one question. Second one, in the HR report, I saw 4 full-time LTE positions, all in areas that I seem to be, in everything I've been reading, areas of great growth. And so my question was why they were LTE positions, and I can enumerate them if you need. And the last was in procurement, that for the first time, I understand, it looks like MATC's public safety officers will be armed with tasers. And I wanted to know what the background was, why we felt the need to do that. Were there incidents? Have we discussed this with our students, community, whatever? I'd just like a little background on that. Thank you.
I can start with the financial report if you'd like.
Sounds good.
Okay. We'll start with the revenue. The revenue is down about almost $1.9 million compared to last year at this time. And we're down, our FTEs are down about 7% at this time. And that translates into about $1.7 million in lost revenue compared to last year. We also had last year, this might have been mentioned last month, but we had an online fee last year that was suspended this year, and that's about 0.9 million, so almost $1 million in lost online course fee. It's $10. It was $10 a class. That the WTCS administration determined that is going to be suspended at this point. And the other part is we have a positive, about $500,000 of incremental state aid has come in. That's been approved by the state. So like I said, the net is about $1.9 million lower revenue versus last year. And as we move down on the expense side, wages are up compared to last year. We had a pay increase. We had a 2.5% pay increase, but we also had we increased our FTE estimate this year. So we also increased incremental staff, that kind of pathway positions that were put in, and also incremental assignments. And so the wages compared to last year are about $1.8 million higher at the same point at the end of September. As we move down, healthcare and payroll taxes make up about the fringe benefit increase of about $0.8 million increase. And the rest, the other non-wage, non-benefit area, I refer to as kind of our discretionary spend area. That's up about $700,000. So net, we're about almost $5.3 million in total, meaning behind last year when you add in the lower revenue and the increased expenses. We did have a meeting this last week. We have a plan for clawing back the anticipated rate that we're at. We're about 16%. We're running about 16% behind the pacing on the FTEs. So that comes out to about $4 million in lost revenue. So we have a four pronged approach. We want to we have $2 million that we want to use for institutional HERF funding for lost revenue. And that's clearly appropriate for us losing the revenue due to lower FTEs. We have a $2 million target to reduce our discretionary spend. And we want to claw back some of those FTEs. So an incremental, based on the rate that we're at, we want an incremental 350 FTEs. We're not looking just for 350 FTEs, but an incremental 350 FTEs based on the rate that we're going right now will give us an incremental $2 million of incremental revenue from where we're at. And then also the last piece would be to, as positions become open, as people leave the college, we want to hold positions open, and hopefully we can claw back another $2 million. So that's the four-pronged balanced approach to trying to get the budget back on track. So I'll pause if you have any questions, or you can go on to the next topic.
Chair Olson, I'll be glad to address the LTE for faculty as well.
Okay, go ahead.
So as far as the full-time faculty and the LTE, we work very closely with the deans, we work very closely with their department chairs and lead faculty, and we try to maintain a balance between full-time and part-time. Also, we try to maintain a balance with LTEs as well. It is always our preference to go with full-time. But in cases, last minute things that we need, sometimes we're short on part-time and so on, we need to feel confident about the enrollments, sustainability, and growth in the future. The minute we can guarantee that through data-driven process, we do that and we defer to full-time. In some cases, we're short on the part-time, we're doing more recruitment, and this is almost a transition and maybe a holding pattern to serve the needs at the current moment. But we're always interested in looking at the numbers and help inform our decisions. There's one more factor that we take into account is we try to maintain a balance between full-time and part-time faculty. We have a guideline which says 65-35 ratio, 65 2/3 full-time, 1/3 part-time. We've been maintaining slightly over 70% full-time to 30% part-time. The exact breakdown this semester is 77.8%. 77.8% full-time, 22.2% part-time. Very impressive, very high, and so on. So these are some of the guiding principles that we follow. And if there is any urgent need and so on, I'm always open to ideas and so on, but we have a good system in place. Any questions?
If no questions, I can respond to the TASER situation with our public safety staff. It's Janice. The board was presented the proposal for going to arming our public safety officers with tasers probably in early 2020. It's taken us some time to find the vendor, and we've gone through the training now with our staff through our own law enforcement program here at MATC. In the winter of 2019, we had a peer review audit by the International Association of Campus Law Enforcement Administrators to review all of our processes and procedures in public safety. And based on the types of incidents we have on campus and the types of threats we have on campus, it was highly recommended that we do go to some type of personal defense mechanisms to help our public safety respond to incidents on campus. Prior to that, we did have a situation in which 2 to 3 of our public safety officers were physically assaulted and had no a way to apprehend the individual. So this is a way to ensure that we are keeping our public safety officers safe on campus when they are responding to incidents. And this is one way in which we can do that without going to full arming. So this was something that was presented to the board. And the board was in approval with us going this direction. And I recognize it's taken some time, and now you're just seeing us actually purchasing all the equipment. So that's where we're at.
Question.
Yep, Director Wilson.
Who's insuring these officers and these tasers? And I missed, you said they were trained by who? I missed that.
Our own law enforcement program here at MATC, police science program. Our officers have gone through the same training as those in our police programs have. So we're doing it internally here at MATC. MATC will insures our officers through our insurance policy.
Thank you.
Any other questions on any of the consent agenda items? If not, we have a motion by Director Baker and a second by Director Mays to approve the consent agenda as presented. So I will take a voice vote at that time. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda items as presented, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion approves. We now move into our board action items. And we will start with our resolutions. And so I know Mr. John Meehan is available here. There he is. And so to get things started here, I will ask for a motion for resolution F0199-10-21, authorizing the sale of $1.5 million general obligation promissory notes, series 2021-2022E of Milwaukee Area Technical College District, Wisconsin.
So moved.
Director Case, is there a second?
Second.
Director Diaz, thank you. And Mr. Meehan.
Yes, good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present the sale results. We, at the direction of the board from the last meeting, issued a $1.5 million request for bids. The bids were open at 9:30 this morning. The winning bidder was BNY Mellon. As you'll see from the 4 names on the bid list, very familiar names. These are folks who have bid on MATC note issues in the past. It's great to see some come and go, but we always have a stable group of bidders. The BNY, which won it at a 0.66, actually didn't bid last month. So it's great to have them back this month. The winner last month actually came in at a 0.57. So you can see rates are up a little bit, but they're going to continue to bounce around. All in all, they were pretty tight from 0.66 to a 0.78. Next page, please. As far as the note issue itself, the Series E is dated November 15th. That's when the funds will be transferred to MATC. The maturities are June 1st, as are all your principal payments, June 1 of 2023 through 26, with the first interest payment next June 1 of 22. Later on the agenda, you're going to set your levy and establish the budget payments for debt service. Funds will be included to make the first interest payment on this issue during calendar year 2022. They're non-callable, and the AA1 is confirmed, and I'll get to that in a minute. And as I mentioned, the true interest cost is at a 0.66, which is how we determine the winner with BNY Mellon. Next page. The average interest rate for this issue came in at a 2.06. And that's why with all the other issues that have been bid, we always have a case where the coupons are a little bit higher than the yield. And that's how the winning bidder generates their earnings, and they also pay a little bit of additional dollar amounts to MATC, which results in a little bit higher average rate than we've seen on some of the other issues so far this fiscal year. Going forward, we use a flat 4% of the interest rates. When you come all the way across to the right side, as you're scrolling, we are within the target, not only for payments that are made during 2021, but for this payment, which will be the first one made in 2022, we have funds budgeted and identified that'll be significant to make the payment. So we're on track as far as purposes of the financing plan. Next page. Just to point out a couple of items on the Moody's Investor Report. The rating itself did not change. Jeff had done a great job and reached out to the lead analyst for MATC and expressed some comment and concern about some of the language and the way it was written that pertained to how the rating could be upgraded or how the rating could be downgraded. I thought Moody's reacted very appropriately. They went to senior participants. We had a good dialogue, a good call, and they have revised the language from how they've presented it in the past. To me, it'll be interesting as I look at other technical college ratings around the state, whether they also reflect that in the other rating language as well. So I'm pleased that that Jeff, when he raised concerns after discussions with, I believe, board members, that Moody's did react and altered their language going forward. So all in all, the rating's confirmed, which is good news. 4 bidders, which is good news, and a 0.66 winning bid, which is always good news. I will be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions? I don't see everybody on my screen because we're, but. Okay, I do not see any questions at this time. So we do have a motion by Director Case and a second by Director Diaz for resolution F01991021 to authorize the sale of 1.5 general obligation promissory notes. So Gwen, could you please take a roll call vote?
Most certainly. Director Case,
Aye.
Director Diaz,
Right.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Mays,
Aye.
Director Wilson,
Aye.
Director Baker,
Aye.
and Director Olson.
Aye. Thank you. We will now move on to our next action item, which is Resolution F0200-10-21, authorizing the issuance of 1.5 general obligation promissory notes series 2021-2022 F of Milwaukee Area Technical College District, Wisconsin. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Thank you, Director Baker.
Second.
Director Hamilton, I'll second.
Okay, we'll go with Director Hamilton that time. Any discussion or conversation on this? This allows Mr. Meehan to go out to market for us for next month. So if there is no discussion, I would entertain a roll call vote. Remember, Director Baker made the motion and Director Hamilton made a second. So Gwen, could you please do a roll call vote?
Director Diaz,
Aye, sorry.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Mays,
Aye.
Director Wilson, Director Wilson, Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Wilson.
Okay, we will move on to item C, which is the resolution to establish the tax levy. So it is resolution F0200-10-21 for our fiscal year 21-22 tax levy. And just as a reminder, we will be taking a roll call vote and do need a 2/3 majority of this to set the tax levy. And Jeff Howell will be providing us a little bit of discussion on this after we get a motion and a second. So do I have a motion to approve the tax levy?
So moved.
Director Case, is there a second?
Second.
Director Mays, thank you. Jeff, would you like to share anything with us about the tax levy?
Yes, what I'd like to just quickly, it's if you saw the attachment, it was a very lengthy explanation, but in summary, I think I can get to this rather quickly. What the state has done is offered additional property tax relief. What that means is to the extent that the state is sending money from the Wisconsin Department of Revenue to the technical colleges and reducing property tax levy for individual property tax owners. So it's good news. And the bottom line is that last year for a $100,000 home, the tax levy for was $115.06 per $100,000 home. This year it's $100.94. So that tax that the amount of tax levy that was reduced per $100,000 home was $14.12. So there's a move in the state to reduce the tax levy, and we see this already. There's going to be incremental money next year as well. So that's this long explanation. Basically, my summary is that the tax levy is reduced by state state funding. So they call it property tax relief aid. So any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Well, if I could just comment.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you so much for the added information on the mill rate. I really do appreciate that. And it's wonderful to be able to tell that to my neighbors. So, but I do appreciate the whole explanation that you provided. It's very useful. Thank you.
Any other questions or follow-up on setting before we take a vote to approve the tax levy? If not, we have a motion by Director Case and a second by Director Mays for resolution F0200-10-21 to establish the 2021-2022 tax levy. Could we please take a roll call vote? As a reminder, we need 2/3 majority of the board on this specific resolution to pass.
Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Mays,
Aye.
Director Wilson, Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Diaz,
Aye.
Director Olson.
Aye. That is 2/3. So we move on to item D, which is a resolution F0202-10-21 to approve 2021 annual budget amendment. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move the motion.
Okay, Director Baker, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Diaz, thank you. Jeff, would you like to share with us the amendment?
Sure. There are between this resolution and the next resolution, this one is to approve the annual budget amendment for 2021, and the next one is for 2022. There's 11 pages. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of changes. So, so basically what I would like to do is, you know, there was a description on each one of the pages, but what I would like to do at a high level is explain why we're amending the budget for fiscal year 2021 that has just completed. The reason why we're doing that is because we've completed our audit, and then we've also received a lot of HERF funding. What we did is we're going through our audit, and next month we're going to vote to approve the audit once it's complete. And basically what we're doing is we're amending the budget to fit within the audit. And basically what it is the budget has to, the budget has to be completed by fund and by function. So basically it's just a lot of movement between functions. There are some funds that came in for HERF that were not necessarily anticipated when the budget was put together last year. So those are included in each of these sheets. So I'll pause and I could go into detail if you want to on each of the sheets, or if you have questions about any specific sheet, I'd be happy to answer questions, but I'll just pause to see if anybody has any questions.
I do not see any. So that being the case, we have the resolution for the previous fiscal year, those adjustments as were presented in the packet, and then a quick overview from Jeff there to explain the why we're doing that. So again, this also does need a 2/3 majority vote. And so there was a motion by Director Baker and a second by Director Diaz. And so Gwen, could you please take a roll call vote?
Oh, certainly. Director Hamilton,
Aye.
Director Mays,
Aye.
Director Wilson, Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Case,
Aye.
Director Diaz,
Aye.
and Director Olson.
Aye. We will now move on to item E, which is the resolution F0203-10-21 to approve the 21-22 annual budget amendment. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Director Case, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Director Mays, thank you. I think, Jeff, you shared with us this. If there's anything you'd like to mention as an overview as to what this amendment adjustment is.
Sure. We go through this every year. Typically in October, the Wisconsin Department of Revenue puts together, finalizes, we make estimates when we put the budget together and approve it in June. We get true ups, we get the actual exact numbers, tax levy, and also wanted to mention that the property tax relief this year was approved in July after the budget was approved. So there are adjustments. So a lot of these movements are to just firm up the numbers that we had estimated. So we got the true numbers from the Wisconsin Department of Revenue, and then also there's a couple of HERF adjustments going forward, and then also the property tax relief aid adjustment that was given to us in July. And once again, if any individual sheets that you'd like to go over, I will. But if not, you can do what you.
I do not see any hands or people motioning to move, so I will we'll move forward with taking a vote on that. So we do have the motion was made by Director Case and second by Director Mays. So again, we do need a 2/3 majority. So Gwen, could you please take a roll call vote?
Sure. Director Mays,
Aye.
Director Baker,
Aye.
okay. Director Case. Director Case. Director Diaz,
Aye.
Director Hamilton,
All right.
and Director Olson.
Aye.
Come back to Director Case.
Aye, sorry.
So I have a question I just recognized. It says 2/3 majority, the board is 6, and we did not receive a vote from Director Wilson. So we have one from Case. So we're okay now for the majority of the board on that. Okay, I just wanted to make sure that I was counting because I don't see Director Wilson on the screen all the time. I keep forgetting to do my math on that one. So, okay. Item F then is resolution F0204-10-21 to approve the designation of the MATC state public officials. This is something we do annually and is a state requirement for those who report to the president. So Elle, I believe you are going to share that with us.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate kind of what you said, Chair Olson.
Sorry.
That's okay. The Government Accountability Board requires that MATC identifies the executives that report to Dr. Martin. So there's a requirement to those executives comply with the Wisconsin Ethics Commission. And those are the ethical standards and codes of conduct that's specified in S 19.42 of the Wisconsin state statutes. That also includes an annual disclosure of financial and other information to ensure that there are no conflict of interest in serving at MATC. So I'd like to request approval for the designation of MATC public officials.
Okay, so I will need to take a motion for resolution F0204-10-21.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Director Mays. Is there a second?
Second.
Who wants to own that? Okay. Well, with Director Diaz, you said, okay, so we're going to go with that. Save. So we have a motion by Director Mason, a second by Director Diaz to approve resolution F0204-1021 to approve the designation of the MATC state public officials. As it is a compliance issue and we had the explanation, I'm going to move to take a voice vote. So all those in favor of approving resolution F0204-10-21, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on then to item, I think that should be G. My thing says F, but I think it should be G. Resolution F0205-10-21 to approve the associate degree program titled Foundation of Teacher Education 10-522-2. So can I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Director Case, is there a second?
Second, Director Mays.
Director Mays, thank you. Dr. Dakwar.
Thanks so much, Chairperson Olson, and thanks for giving us the opportunity to present this program. We are seeking your approval for the concept review, and I have a team that will be presenting shortly. But in terms of the process, the concept review is the first of 2 phases in the WTCS new program development process. So this is the first step of the 2 phases. And then upon review and the approval of the MATC board, this will be moved on to the WTCS board. And the next meeting is in January 18th. So hopefully they can approve this so we can move on with this. So without further ado, I have 2 faculty members with me today, Dr. Mearhead and Dr. Brown, to present this program briefly. Dr. Mearhead and Dr. Brown.
Hello. Most of us have had the opportunity to be influenced by a teacher or another educator in a supportive role who has worked inside a school building, whether it has been a teacher aide, also known as a paraprofessional, a school resource officer, or maybe even a long-term substitute teacher. Some of us may recall very positive interactions with these educators, whereas others may not. Good evening. My name is Dr. Talonda Lipsy Brown, and I am an instructor and lead faculty in the Associate of Arts Teacher Education pre-major. And I stand with my dean, Dr. Sadiq Isahaku, and colleague, Dr. Pablo Muirhead, who is an instructor in the World Languages Department, an instructor in our Teacher Education pre-major, and is the immediate past lead faculty for Teacher Education. We would like to thank you for providing us with the opportunity to share our proposal to bring the Foundations of Teacher Education program to Milwaukee Area Technical College. The Foundations of Teacher Education program is a 60-credit associate degree program that will provide candidates with the opportunity to embark upon one of the most rewarding professions in the world, teaching. And we stand here both as former teachers and now teacher educators, so we know that to be true. Successful candidates of the Foundations of Teacher Education program will gain the necessary knowledge and skills to serve in a variety of career roles, including paraprofessionals or educational assistants, substitute teachers, special education aides, and preschool teachers. In addition, candidates wishing to pursue a bachelor's degree at a 4-year institution will be well prepared to continue in their studies and education. The credential awarded for completion of this program is an Associate in Applied Science AAS degree. While in the Foundations of Teacher Education program, candidates will complete core courses in education, including method courses regarding techniques in teaching in specific content areas, courses related to educational practices, technology in education, behavior management, equity, special education, child and adolescent development, as well as courses on ways to support students with disabilities. In addition, students will also complete courses in general studies, including English composition, oral and interpersonal communication, math, diversity studies, sociology, and psychology. Students will also participate in practicum experiences in which they will have opportunities to learn firsthand while in the field, as well as complete a professional educational portfolio. The Foundations of Teacher Education program is offered statewide. Here you will see listed the other technical colleges that currently offer the program. Although MATC serves a more diverse population of students than other institutions within the state, we will analyze the data and insights shared by our sister institutions within the Wisconsin Technical College system as a means of planning, recruitment, and retention strategies, as well as to successfully build our program. Pablo and I, in addition to our dean, Dr. Sadiq Isahaku, have participated in and continue to participate in monthly collaborative meetings with Katie Roberts, the Wisconsin Technical College System Education Director, as well as with faculty from the WTCS institutions that currently offer this program. The Foundations of Teacher Education program supports employment demands because currently there is a nationwide shortage of educators and educational support staff. COVID-19 has only served to exacerbate such shortages. Bringing the FOTE program to MATC will not only increase the pool of educators serving students in the city of Milwaukee and its surrounding areas, it will also diversify the pool of educators by increasing the number of male, bilingual, and educators of color, all areas in high demand in which our institution can satisfy due to our demographic makeup. And here you see a picture of one of my former classes, and you can see the beautiful diversity that is demonstrated there. I recently met with the Chief Human Resources Officer of one of our major school districts regarding shortages of educational support staff throughout the district. As a result of this meeting, I learned that the current demand for employees is so high that this particular district is looking into alternative solutions to staff such shortages, including hiring degree-seeking students. Bringing the FOTE program to MATC would directly address this demand for educators within the Milwaukee metropolitan area. As a part of this application and proposal process, our teacher education pre-major conducted a survey of educational stakeholders within the greater Milwaukee area with regard to the demand for educators. The data was comprised of respondents serving in roles including superintendents, chief human resource officers, district administrators, and district personnel from 14 school districts serving southeastern Wisconsin, and the responses reflected nationwide trends of there being an increased demand for teachers and educational support staff. Graduates of the Foundations of Teacher Education program at MATC would be able to access the job market and gain employment immediately upon completion of the program. The findings from the survey showed an increase in the number of projected job positions over the next few years. Based on the data, there were approximately 177 job positions projected for year one, approximately 444 job positions projected for year three, and approximately 721 job positions projected for year five. The majority of the respondents indicated that they were most likely to hire paraprofessionals and teaching aides with Foundations of Teacher Education degrees focused on preparing students for work in schools versus the minimum requirements held currently for these positions. Here you will see some of the other results from our survey. 85% of the participants surveyed indicated that they were more likely to hire a candidate with a specialized degree in teacher education. All of our participants surveyed stated that they would encourage and support continuing education for their current paraprofessional and teaching aides to gain more specialized training in teacher education. And all of the participants surveyed stated that they would be willing to hire graduates of the proposed Foundations of Teacher Education program. With regard to wage earnings, successful completers of the program who are hired as paraprofessionals can expect to earn $24,000 on average during their first year of employment. Graduates who are hired as substitute teachers could expect to earn approximately $35,000. In addition to gainful employment upon graduation, the FOTE program would also provide a pathway towards attaining a four-year bachelor's degree and teaching license at a four-year institution with one of our transfer partners. Articulation discussions with transfer institutions are occurring statewide, and we are hopeful that these discussions will continue to progress. Most recently, UW-Oshkosh signed a memorandum of understanding with Fox Valley Technical College regarding this program. We began this presentation by mentioning the ways that educators can impact the lives of students. We would like to close by highlighting the projected impact the Foundations of Teacher Education program will have on students educated within the greater Milwaukee community. As I've mentioned throughout this presentation, graduates of the FOTE program will have the opportunity to work with students in a variety of roles, including providing students with support in reading, writing, math, and science, as well as being able to directly work with students by providing individualized instruction under the supervision of a licensed teacher. Both of these factors are significant, and we believe that a Foundations of Teacher Education program at MATC would subsequently work to help close the achievement and opportunity gaps and increase academic attainment, and that students will be served by trained staff who are highly qualified and whom have backgrounds in teacher education. Finally, we think it is extremely important to highlight the fact that teachers and educational support staff play a vital role in improving school climate, because these educators work to serve as positive role models and mentors to students, as well as work to develop trusting relationships with not only students, but parents and families as well. Thank you so much for your time in providing us with the opportunity to present this program before you. Are there any questions?
I have a comment because I did get an email based on my role from actually Pablo in serving that. And so was very excited when I knew that MATC was going to pursue this for sure, because sitting where I am in a K-12 world, shortages of teachers is an understatement right now, and just employees as a whole in the world. And I know that workforce shortages are everywhere, but so I'm very happy to see this. And I appreciate the fact that there are opportunities with this and that there's growth to move it into a bachelor's program. And so I think that that's a really key piece of that. Students might find success all along the way, but yet it can even lead to that bachelor's degree. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I just want to totally agree with the chair. I'm very, very excited MATC is doing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, we know that this moves on to the technical college system, and that process will then begin after we take a voice vote here. So we did have a motion here by Director Mace and second by Director Case. So I'd like to take a voice vote on the resolution F0205-10-21 to approve the associate degree for Foundations of Teacher Education. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We do have item H, which is resolution F0206-10-21 to revise the fiscal year renovation remodeling. And I think the explanation was included in our packets, the reason for that, but Janice is here and she will just give an overview about the necessity for doing so. Janice.
Thank you, Chair Olson. And I know Ginny Rothy did join us. She is our Director of Construction Sustainability and Planning. But if there are specific questions, I can certainly turn it over to her. But this does include a $1 million shift in what we had expected to do at Walker Square for heavy plate welding. We are not ready to proceed moving forward on that project due to a partnership commitment that we're still working on. So instead, we are going to be shifting that $1 million to fund an emergency electrical upgrade in our S building. We have 1985 electrical in that building, and we have had some power outages. So we are going to be shifting that $1 million to cover a new transformer, as well as a generator and some other electrical fault irregularities in that building. So I would seek approval that we get authorization to move that funding. Thank you.
I realized that I didn't ask for a motion or a second. So I think I'm missing that on my part of it, but I will do so now before we entertain some discussion if there is any. So is there a motion to approve resolution F0206-10-21 to revise the remodeling and renovation for this fiscal year?
I'll move the motion.
Thank you, Director Baker.
Second.
Thank you, Director Case. Any discussion based on what Janice just shared with us about the timing of not being ready? Okay, seeing none, I will take a voice vote on the resolution. There was a motion by Director Baker and second by Director Case for the resolution F0206-10-21. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? I guess I'm gonna, because I didn't have that on my list, that could be okay for a voice vote. Or does that need to be a roll call? It wasn't not in my guide sheet here, so I'm sorry.
It should be a voice vote.
Voice vote is fine.
Okay, good. I just didn't know with fiscal pieces. Okay, thank you, and that passes. Next section in the agenda is the policy review. This is just the first reading of this. This will actually come back to us in November for approval. So it is policy E0104, faculty course credentialing, and I am going to call on our Vice President of Human Resources.
Hi, thank you again. And I'm going to introduce Jenny Smith. I can't see if she's on. Oh, I see you. Hi, Jenny. Jenny's going to present this information. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for letting me present this policy modification today. A little bit of background on this policy and what it does. This policy allows us to qualify faculty at the college to teach individual courses. And what is meant by that is the typical process for most of our faculty is to qualify them to teach programs. So they are measured to teach all of the courses in a program based off of their set education, work experience, licensure, and other experiences that they've had. We do on occasion have circumstances where it might not be possible to find a faculty member that has the expertise to teach a specific course that fits those qualifications. So this policy allows for us to measure that individual's qualifications to teach that individual course and document their subject matter expertise for the Higher Learning Commission. At this time, the changes to this policy that we're proposing are to eliminate the word certification because it is an antiquated state term that used to include the process of credentialing. But since 2016, the state is using the Faculty Quality Assurance System model, which specifically in the state legislative language uses the term credentialing. So we are proposing that that word is substituted for certification. We are also referencing back some policies and procedures that have changed internally that reference how faculty are brought on in an urgent hire manner and how faculty are assigned course sections, just so that those are appropriately called out within the document as to where to find those specific updated procedures. So that is what I have at this time, but I welcome any questions or concerns from the board.
I do not see any. And so again, this comes back to the board for approval. If there's any questions that people have prior to that meeting, please get those out there in advance so that they can be prepared to answer those and we can move through to approve that policy change. Thank you very much. We're moving on to the report section of the agenda. First is the chairperson's report. So I will start with that. Both Director Case and I attended the Association of Community College Trustees, the ACCT Leadership Congress in San Diego from October 13th through the 16th. The theme was advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion. We also had the pleasure of having our director of DEI from the college also attend with us. So that was very appropriate. And we had some great conversations there. And Beth also attended and learned some great things. So I think it was great to hear so many different conversations going on across the country. First of all, it was good to be back in an in-person conference and also to connect with people across the country. And so I think that was those spontaneous conversations that happen often when you're in a session. You miss those on a virtual type of conference if you've attended those. And so I think that was very helpful. We did connect, at least I did, with a couple of our colleges throughout Wisconsin, attended one from Gateway College and a couple other presentations. So really focused a lot of my time on, there were some things that I did on board governance, board retreats, a couple of those things focused on my role, but also some sessions on works of boards around DEI data, some data coaching. So all of those things found them to be extremely beneficial and helpful. And yeah, I thought it was great. And days were filled from beginning to end with a lot of those things. And so Director Case, is there anything that you would like to add from some of the work or workshops that you saw?
Nope, I think you covered it.
Okay, great. Rest of the board members, remember that you can still sign up for the Technical College District Boards Association fall meeting and legal issues, which is held virtually coming up here October 28th and 29th. So just in a couple days. So if you still would like to attend, please let Gwen know and she will register you and get you that information. On the agenda, it is down in our announcements later on here. Our winter commencement is being held in person again this year on December 17th and in a new venue at Fiserv Forum. So our students are looking forward to celebrating this day again back in person with their loved ones. And because of being able to hold at Fiserv, we are able to have plenty of social distancing. Masks will be required. And as in the past, board members who want to attend will be able to attend. We are looking at some COVID protocols as far as what board members typically did in that role in the ceremony. So a little bit more detail on that. So please look at your calendars and mark them. And we will be getting more information to sort of confirm our attendance as it gets closer. But I did want to bring that attendance since we have been without an in-person commencement for 18 months or so here. So just wanted to bring that attention. Wanted to let you know this last week that I had met with some of our college administration regarding our board self-evaluation tool. Those of us who have been on the board for a while have completed that self-evaluation tool. And as we know, part of the accreditation for the Higher Learning Commission, there are certain requirements for that. And so I think that question always comes back. So after we've done the self-evaluation tool, now what? What do we do with that? What information have we gained? And so it's only as good as the tool itself, being able to use that. So I think it was a very productive meeting. And we've worked with modifying that and having some very focused outcomes from that. So I plan on sharing that with the board either in November or early December about what that redesigned tool is. And so I'm very excited about that. I think it will be a very useful tool and moving it from a place of just completing it as board members to doing something with those results. Next, I'd like to introduce Director Case to provide us with the MATC Foundation report.
Sure, thank you. The MATC Foundation Board met on Thursday, September 30th. The MATC Foundation Board leadership and foundation staff have worked to increase the number and heighten the profile of people serving on the Foundation Board. 5 new MATC Foundation Board members were recently recruited and introduced at this meeting. Deborah Allen, President and CEO of DNA Network, who is a longtime entrepreneur who previously was leading a McDonald's franchise. Chantel Bird, Vice President Shared Services at Manpower Group. Carlos Cervantes, Manager HR Business Partner at Molson Coors Beverage Company. Dave Megna, Vice President Wisconsin Field Operations at WEC Energy Group. Dayla Randolph, System Vice President, Learning and Development at Advocate Aurora Health. At this meeting, the Foundation Board heard the annual presentation of the audit. The independent audit was performed by CLA. They issued a clean audit with no comments for improvements or in systems or internal controls. The audit process provides donors with the assurance that their gifts are being directed to their intended purpose with good fiscal management. At this meeting, the board participated in a strategy session and divided into 4 groups that review and discuss external communications, including brochures, electronic communications, social media, print storytelling, and donor communications. The exercise helped board members gain a deeper understanding of MATC's offerings and impact as they serve as ambassadors in the community. A gentle reminder to district board members as you consider your year-end giving, one option is to support MATC students through a gift made to the MATC Foundation. Contributions can be made at matc.edu/donate. If you would like to discuss which scholarship funds might best align with your philanthropic goals, please contact Executive Director Laura Bray. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
You're
welcome. Ready to move on to the President's report. Dr. Martin.
Well, thank you, Chair Olson, board members, faculty, staff, and community. Good evening. I'd like to update you on some key events. On October 6th, we hosted the official unveiling of our MATC Community Art Collection titled Breaking Through. The campus has recently undergone many building renovations, and the college is celebrating by recognizing our shared history and diversity in the display of art created by students, alumni, and community members. We also had the honor of publicly showcasing all of this great work by participating in Milwaukee's Gallery Night. I want to thank Dr. Julie Ashlock and the Community Arts Committee for launching this program, and to all the talented artists who submitted works for the collection. And I would encourage board members, when you're on campus, to take a look through our hallways. It's just really amazing work. The Black Student Union invited me to attend their October monthly meeting, and I was joined by our DEI officer, Eva Martinez-Paulus. I had the great pleasure of hearing from our students, listening to their concerns, and gathering ideas for additional ways we can support their needs. We are in year 5 of the 10-year Guided Pathways Implementation Plan. Our Vice President of Institutional Effectiveness, Dr. Christine Mannion, has begun an audit of key areas. The results will assist us in identifying ways to improve our framework and provide for long-term sustainability of our Guided Pathways program. Last week, Thursday, you may have seen that we were featured on the front page of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel for expansion of our Promise program to adults who are delayed and maybe completing high school. Eligible students who graduate from our adult high school or earn their GED or HSED credential will be able to attend MATC with free tuition, or tuition covered, and they will enroll as part of our Promise for New High School Graduates program. We're really excited about that, and thanks to all the hard work by Sarah Cappard, Jonathan Feld, Holly Thielen, and Vashna Her, and Ginny Ganad for her work on the publicity. That concludes my report.
You're still on mute, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have our District Student Senate report. This is the first time we've had our students join us this school year. And so I would like to introduce, first of all, Eric Zemans, who will introduce our student. Thank you, Eric.
Hi, thank you. Yes, my name is Eric Zemans. I'm the Director of Student Life here at Milwaukee Area Technical College. I have the pleasure of introducing Fong Nguyen tonight. During my time here at the college, Fong has been a student since actually I was originally hired, which is rare to say. But he's also been a student that's been highly successful, both in leadership and his academics, as well as outside of MATC in the community. And those three things are really things that Fong holds with value and dear. As a future educator, he really already is engaging in how to engage other students. He talks, about diversity awareness and many other things with me. And when I think of Fong, I think of really the student, the ideal student experience and the model for what I hope all of our students experiences can be. So I'm super pleased to have him here tonight, and I hope you enjoy his report, and here if you have any questions. Thank you. Fong.
Hi, Eric. Thank you, Eric. And then thank you, Lisa. Dr. Vicky Martin, member of the MATC District Board and Administration. My name is Fong Nguyen, and then I'm happy to be here to represent district student government and the student body. I'm also I'm on the West Alice students and studying liberal art to become a teacher. And despite the pandemic continuing, Student Life is holding strong with the events and then the vibrant brought to the campus. Each month at West Alice, there's a theme for the month. The theme of the month bring the student together and provide awareness of diverse group, culture, and advocacy topics. Even though we struggle with having students on the campus, Student Life is doing a great job of building connection with the student. As our campus, Student Life had improved the student union by increasing the number of game, decoration, and hands-on event every week. This improvement show that MATC care about the student, their mental health and well-being more than other colleges that I went to. I continue to look forward to seeing more students on the campus, especially in the student union. I'm excited for some of my favorite events from before the pandemic to return. While we are not out of the pandemic yet, I feel this year is an improvement over the last year. Lastly, I would like to express my appreciation for the staff and the faculty who have been very helpful to myself and then our student as this year has begun. The help provide had made MATC feel like a second home for me. I'd like to thank you for this time to speak with you and look forward to the future conversation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. And again, excited that we have a future teacher that spoke to us this evening also. Next, we have our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Report by Eva Martinez-Paulus.
Good evening, everyone. It is good to see you today. And thank you so much to the student that just presented that wonderful information and presentation. I have the following diversity, equity, and inclusion updates. I will start first with the President's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force. The first phase of the President's Task Force work is to perform an audit on all equity and inclusion activities. We have just recently deployed 3 audit work groups that will engage in the audit of equity and inclusion activities across the college. Their role is to work in collaboration to tell the MATC story pertaining to diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is a data gathering exercise, and it will entail collaboration, and it would also entail using a lot of the resources that we have on campus to be able to tell our story when it comes to DEI and to be able to also gather that information. Currently, there are 3 teams currently working on this audit. The first team includes the instruction and assessment. This work group will perform an audit on all current equity and inclusion activities, data sets, practices, programs, and initiatives that support the culture of inclusion in the classroom for students from historically underrepresented populations. Special focus for this team is placed on better understanding equity and inclusion efforts in the classroom for Black, Indigenous, and students of color. The second audit team includes the Student Experience Work Group. This team will audit current equity and inclusion activities, practices, programs, and initiatives that support a culture of inclusion for students from historically underrepresented backgrounds and populations. A special focus is placed on better understanding equity and inclusion efforts to recruit, retain, and graduate Black, Indigenous, and students of color. So for example, this team will be in charge of better understanding what the pipeline looks like in terms of access, recruitment, retention, and graduation for certain student populations. As an example, what does the student pipeline look like for our Black students and other populations? What does the pipeline look like for our Hispanic students? This is the main focus of why we have the President's Task Force on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for our students. And this team will do a great job of gathering the data and being able to form the MATC story around the student experience. The third group involves the employee experience. This team will focus on performing an audit on current equity and inclusion activities, data sets, practices, programs, and initiatives that support a culture of inclusion for employees, specifically from historically underrepresented backgrounds. Again, a special focus is placed on better understanding equity and inclusion efforts pertaining to the employee experience of employees that come from a Black African American background, Indigenous background, and also employees of color. What does the pipeline look like in terms of access, recruitment, retention, promotion, and leadership? So we want to make sure that within that audit team that we are really focusing on better understanding the employee experience. We anticipate wrapping up the audit early in December to then begin working on the second phase of the task force, which involves an analysis of everything that we have gathered in order for us to truly have a picture of what we are currently doing in order to better analyze the path forward. These next steps will help us develop that intentional DEI plan and also develop the recommendations for a college-wide equity and inclusion work. Next slide, please. The second update I have for you, it involves the anti-bias workshops titled Managing a Transformative Culture, because inclusion is a responsibility shared by every individual. The workshop is required for all faculty and staff as it focuses on foundational knowledge on how implicit and explicit bias impacts our work with colleagues and students. As of today, I am happy to report that 700 of our employees have gone through the workshop, and we have a lot more sessions coming up into the end of December. For example, the cabinet and council were among the first ones to take the training. They understand that as a diverse college, we know that we have significant work to do, and we are committed to creating and sustaining a culture of inclusion where everyone feels valued, respected, appreciated, and welcomed. The workshop is very powerful. For example, as a component of the workshop, we have a video from President Martin that speaks to the importance of creating and upholding an inclusive culture. The workshops have been well received, and yes, they are not perfect, but it's a great start for creating that foundational knowledge that we all need to have around diversity, equity, and inclusion. These were some of my updates. Thank you, and I am happy to take any questions if you have any. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that information and succinct report. I do not see any questions on there, so we will move. Oh, we do. I'm sorry, Director Diaz. Oh, you do. I do. Missed your hand. You found your hand tool.
Thanks to Director Baker. Help me find that hand. I just like to, just a comment here, not necessarily a question. I'm very pleased with the work that you're doing, Eva. I think, bringing these perspectives over so everybody can be on the same page is very important. I think that's a very good first step to, I don't want to say first, but I know we've been working on this for quite some time, but it's moving in the right direction to really, achieve the goals that you have. So I just like to congratulate you on that good work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Diaz.
Hello.
Yes, Director Wilson.
Yes, I just want to say I was on the call and there were so many good issues raised, but I don't want us to start clapping and jumping because we got a whole lot of work. I mean, this is a lot of work. So we're just at step one, like he said, and we'll be stepping for a while.
Yes, Director Olson, may I say something?
Absolutely, yep.
Yes, thank you, Director Wilson. It is a pleasure having you on the task force. I also would like to thank my co-lead, VP L. Bonds, and we have been working collaboratively very well together. So thank you, VP Bonds.
Thank you. We will move on to the enrollment report by Dr. Nadine Gonzalez de Jesus. And we have, I know, our strategic enrollment plan there.
Madam Chair, thank you kindly. I would like to put the presentation for tonight in context. Upon my arrival at MATC, I asked to see the school's SEM plan. I noticed that we didn't have a strategic enrollment plan. There was none to be found. So instead, what I saw were departmental plans that were created in silos. And the most important thing is that we didn't have a plan that actually showed or assessed the efforts of our ROI or the ROI for our efforts. In response to this, about 7 months ago, I formed a team, a SEM team that was charged with the responsibility of creating an integrated and comprehensive strategic enrollment management plan. What you received last week is MATC's first SEM plan, that it is a comprehensive plan. It takes into account the diversity of our students and the markets that we have to reach out to. Is it a good plan? Absolutely. Is it a perfect plan? Absolutely not. But we believe that it is a plan that provides a foundation by which we can begin to track and measure our enrollment efforts and tweak as we go. We also, I think it's important to know that it is a dynamic plan, that it will continue to evolve as we go. I am very proud of the work that the SEM team has done for the last 7 to 8 months. I wanted to say that the plan, in terms of the creation of it, it was created in alignment with Transformation 2025. We wanted to make sure we followed and that we were in alignment with the strategic priorities of the student experience equity and the impact on our community. It was also divided into 3 parts: recruitment and onboarding. We also have a retention part, and then we have a completion with a focus on next steps, jobs, and transfer. Those parts will be presented by Sarah Adams, Jeff Jans, and Jenny. Right now, Dr. Adams will go ahead and present our enrollment as well as her part of the SEM plan on onboarding and retention. What we'll do is that we will answer the questions that you may have at the end of the presentations. Dr. Adams, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. De Jesus. And thank you and good evening, members of the board and the college community. The current slide, if we could have the slide deck up for enrollment. Thank you. Okay. The current slide shows the enrollment picture. Currently, we're at 85% of FTEs for the fall semester. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide shows where the college was in comparison to fall 2019 and fall 2020 semester and where we are as of today. And again, as you can see, in comparison to those 2 semesters, we are below our goal. Next slide, please. This slide shows our student groups and the current enrollment trends. When we look at this slide, we see that our continuing students are behind our new to MATC and our returning from earlier term. We do have to say, though, that our spring students that were here in the spring was a number that was a little bit lower because, as you know, we were really in the throes of COVID during that period of time. And our new to MATC, our students are up a bit, and returning from earlier term, those students are also up. But I would want to go into our SEM now. I want to share how the SEM plan is going to help us to improve our enrollment. I thank you for the opportunity to be able to do this, and we definitely thank Dr. Jesus for giving us the opportunity to put together a plan. And it was a plan truly we worked on together as a cross-functional group of the college. And when we discuss the strategies, please know that we are doing them in a variety of methods, including face-to-face, virtual, texting, and we're doing all of this when appropriate. And we're making the experience to be a personalized experience for our students, because we know that not all of our students are the same. So they have different needs, and we want to make sure that we meet the needs of those students. We also have to be aware of the financial challenges many of our students are facing and work with them in obtaining a solution. So as a result, some of these issues, one of the primary targets we have is to increase enrollment through a more student-centered recruitment and onboarding approach. We plan on doing this in several ways, one of which is to review, change, and implement an updated MATC Promise Plan with a focus on identified Hispanic serving high schools, as well as launching a Spanish language pages on our matc.edu. We are creating and implementing a comprehensive communication plan from recruitment to registration that focus on our various student groups. We're strengthening relationships to build new capacities and services at our Walker Square and also at our community-based organizations. We're revising our marketing strategies and streamlining the onboarding process for Start College Now. We're working to identify strategies to reduce the equity gaps in conversion rate with targeted plans for various groups. And we're developing and strengthening relationships between our admission centers, which is located in our Enter pillar, our advising, which is located in our Stay pillar, and our pathways, which is located within our Learn pillar. We're working to decrease the time from application to enrollment, where we've noticed that this has been one of our holdups with our students. So we're working together to decrease that time as far as enrollment is concerned. Again, these are just a few of the strategies that we're including in the recruitment and onboarding process. So thank you for your time. And now we have Dr. Jeff Jans to discuss some of our retention strategies.
Thank you, Sarah. Greetings. My name is Jeff Jans, and I serve as the MATC Vice President of Retention and Completion. I'd like to briefly share retention information related to the overall enrollment at MATC. The retention portion of our strategic enrollment plan is driven by several goals with action steps demonstrating what we strive to do in order to keep our students enrolled, progressing, engaged, safe, and healthy. I'd like to highlight a few of these actions here. The first goal is to increase 3-year graduation and transfer rates. One of the action steps to that end is to create targeted success plans for specialized student populations, including first-generation students, single-parent students, and students with basic insecurities. By identifying and providing needed resources to these students, we improve their likelihood of successful completion. Another retention action step under this goal is the development of increasing 8-week course schedules. Research has shown that an 8-week course allows students to not only focus on fewer courses at one time, but also complete courses they otherwise may have failed. The second goal under retention planning is to identify and reduce course success equity gaps at MATC. Action steps toward this goal include assessing disaggregate data regarding who does not complete college applications, or who does or does not attend STORM orientation events, and then we'll follow up to discover why that's the case. Another action step is to improve communication for students through the enrollment funnel. The pathway staff makes proactive and responsive contacts with students throughout the year, checking in on ensuring that classes are going well, assistance is provided if needed, and if students fall into warning or probation status, they are guided through that process. A third goal is to engage students of color through wraparound services and coaching. An important action step here is to establish a direct connection between retention coaches and individual students in programs such as Promise and Restart. We will also strive to increase access to no-cost or low-cost text materials. Another significant step in our plan is a consistent assessment of services, programs, and resources offered to students. Data is collected about services used and comparisons are made to non-users. This provides us the ability to impact the equity gap by analyzing disaggregated data. In spite of all these efforts, students still leave MATC prior to their completion. There are many reasons for this, including financial hardships, financial or family obligations, health-related concerns, any of a number of insecurities and other reasons. Our hope is that we can provide assistance for these or other barriers to success. Gathering data from those students who leave could assist us in this effort. I will close by pointing to a bit of bleak data that was released just today. The National Student Clearinghouse reported that undergraduate enrollment across the board dropped 5.6% this fall compared to last year for two-year public institutions. A long-term analysis of our WTCS partners shows that the combined set of enrollment in the WTCS institutions has been declining over the last 10 years. This gives us our marching orders with our retention efforts. With that, I will turn it over now to Jenny McGilligan to talk about completion plan.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jans, and good evening, Chairperson Olson, board members, and Dr. Martin. My name is Jenny McGilligan, and I am the director of our Career Hub here at MATC. I want to begin by really thanking Dr. Gonzalez de Jesus for the opportunity and platform to discuss some of the initiatives and strategies we're working on to support completion, employment, transfer, and alumni engagement. One of our key objectives is to expand internship, apprenticeship, and employment opportunities for our graduates and alumni with area employers and organizations. Included in the SEM plan is a key metrics document from students completing internship and field experience courses. The data reveals lower participation rates for Black and Brown students. Participation in work-based learning is a proven strategy to help propel students and better prepare them to transition into the workforce. Those students have a competitive edge in the interviewing and hiring process over their peers who have not participated. Some strategies to help level the playing field and increase opportunities and participation include building our relationships with community-based organizations and increasing our engagement with Black and Brown-owned businesses. This past summer, we were so privileged to partner with MKE Black in their pilot summer internship program, where they created internship opportunities with Black and Brown business owners and helped match interns for placements. We had 2 MATC interns hired and used our community work study student employment program to fund their experience. We hope to partner with them again this next summer. We are also one of just 2 institutions of higher education selected to partner with a community-wide initiative called Equity 2030, which aspires to create 1,800 work-based learning opportunities for Black and Brown students within the creative industries by the year 2030, utilizing the internship model. This organization has had to pivot and regroup due to many COVID shutdowns, but they are planning internship placements again this summer. We hired a bilingual employment specialist who is working with students on career readiness and also working with Dr. Solano to deepen relationships with Hispanic-owned businesses. We are helping plan the 2nd annual Latinx Career Conference with Eva and Dr. Wilma Bonaparte, which is this Thursday. So if anybody can attend, it really is a wonderful, wonderful experience. Dr. Gonzalez de Jesus she's been our champion to help advance our equity work in work-based learning and career. With her persistence and leadership, we are adding a bilingual career coach and bilingual community care coordinator who will work with our ESL and our ELL students to navigate their career journey. All 3 of these professionals will have a direct impact on the student experience. MATC leads the M-Cubed work-based learning team, and we have taken our focus of racial equity and seamless transfer to the agenda with our peers at UWM and MPS. Just this last month, all 3 institutions have benchmarked participation in work-based learning, including the number of MPS alumni who are currently engaged in work-based learning at both MATC and UWM. Our number right now for MPS alumni participating in work-based learning is 24%. Using categories identified by HERA, the team is setting goals to increase participation in these work-based opportunities as a progressive experience across the institutions. We're developing a 1-pager resource on low-touch, high-touch employer engagement opportunities and developing a strategic plan to approach employers together, the 3 institutions together, on building progressive work-based opportunities utilizing youth apprenticeships, and internships. So the goal is very early entry industry exposure in high school to a more advanced opportunity at MATC, and yet even a higher work-based learning opportunity should a student continue to UWM. This initiative not only benefits the student experience, but also creates a very intentional early entry into the workforce to help better meet the needs of our local employers. These are just a few of the strategies we have in place and have chose to highlight tonight. We have been working very closely to engage alumni and employers in our Get That Job Career Readiness series and to help better insert alumni into the MATC talent pipeline that flows to meet the needs of our local workforce by collaborating with our MATC Alumni Relations team. Many new exciting workforce initiatives that Laura Bray has brought to the college are changing the way students attend school and having a direct impact on our community, including the Job Up Milwaukee program, the Uniquely Abled Academy, and now the MATC Gap Year. This next year, we'll be collaborating with the Learn Pillar to develop a very intentional focus on building cooperative education at MATC to help meet the needs of our students and our local employers. I really thank you for the opportunity to share some of this work with you this evening.
Jenny, Sarah, and Jeff, thank you so much. We're now open to receive your questions.
Director Baker?
Yeah, well, first, I have to say, Dr. Gonzalez de Jesus is like a very impressive document. I mean, I actually waded through most of it. tried to understand most of it. I'm really excited to see this as a development. And I guess I have two things. So one is, actually, I want to thank you. And for my colleagues, I raised the question to Dr. Gonzalez de Jesus about the application for graduation, which was a previous requirement we had, which to me sounded mostly administrative instead of just letting students graduate when they were ready. I read about it in an ACCT document, and she was immediately on it and said, oh yeah, we are eliminating that application for exactly, those reasons. And, it was like very timely. And, I just really appreciate the forward motion in this direction, because obviously we have a lot to work on. So my question to you is, perhaps you could comment on how the board can be of assistance, what monitoring we can do at our level that can be helpful as the college moves forward on this plan.
Absolutely. Thank you kindly for your words and the question. I would have to say that, and again, I'm going to leave the mic open for my peers to also jump in and chime in. But one of the ways in which I have seen boards work very closely with the SEM teams is by ensuring that you are actually our eyes and ears. You tell us what is the pulse of the community. What is it that they're thinking? What are they experiencing with MATC? How can we improve what we're doing? Many times we're serving our students, we're working with our staff, and because we are in the center of it, many times we may not hear what goes on in the community. So having you being aware and then letting us know as to what are some of the things that they're sensing and how we can improve, that is first and foremost. I would also like to say that engaging our partners so that we can continue to achieve the goal of improved enrollment by creating transparent relationships by the creation of programs. Right? So for example, is there a hospital that is looking to train their workers? Is there an organization in the community that you know of that we could be of service to them? Again, making those connections for us and helping us in that way. And then I would have to say that on the other end, from the financial aspect, being an advocate, continue to advocate for MATC and the work that we're doing, both within the state and in DC, making sure that your voice is heard, because first and foremost, you are the ones, you are the experts, and you know the work that we're doing and the impact that we're having in our students and the community. Are there any other questions? Director Diaz? Yes.
Yes, Dr. Gonzalez de Jesus, I'd like to congratulate you on a very good job that you're doing. Very impressive report. I just do have one question, as I look at the report and the numbers, the retention part of the students that have been already on our facility and then they're leaving, right? Are we doing like some sort of exit interviews, gathering some data about what they're living, and I know there are multiple reasons, like they were stated already that, it could be health issues, personal issues, all kinds of other issues. But I'm curious to see if we know precisely, at least for what we can do as an institution, what are they living, and are we meeting their expectations? At least that we ask the question. That would be like my question: how much data do we actually have for the reasons that they're living, and is there anything that we as an institution can do to since they're already in our facility, which is very hard to bring them in. Now we can probably have a conversation and see, hey, what is the path? What are the issues? Are there social issues? Is an issue internally? I mean, those kind of things that I think would be very helpful to see if we can kind of shrink that, percentage of people that are leaving a sense once they are actually in facility. So that was kind of my question. Thank you.
Absolutely, sir. Actually, as a matter of fact, just last week, I charged our team and our VPs to work with institutional research on creating a survey that would allow us to understand why the students that we had just this past spring are not with us this fall, why the students from last fall are not with us this fall. Right? So we're going back a semester and then an entire year in getting in touch with our students. We just received the data last week, and just last week we sent the survey. To this day, I still didn't find information as to why our students left MATC. And I said, wait a second, we need to get this information because this is what is going to inform our actions as we proceed. At the end of the day, what we want to do, we want to increase enrollment. We want to make sure our students are staying, not having to leave. Other than that, we're also working, or in addition to that, we're working on converting the application to the registration rate. We want to increase that. You see, I looked at the funnel, at the enrollment funnel. What happens is we have a lot of new students that are applying. That's great. We're doing great with onboarding, with our recruitment, our outreach. Something is happening in the funnel, in that bottleneck. What's happening? Have we actually began to look at the processes that we have in place that do not allow our students to go through that flow so that they can actually enroll in courses? So one of the things that I found out is that guided pathways is not the issue. And that's perhaps what you're going to continue to hear every now and then. Guided pathways is a framework that was created and it was brought to MATC to actually help our students come in, stay, achieve what they needed to achieve, and quickly connect with someone and then complete and transfer out or get a job, right? What has happened is that when we implemented the framework, it was done during the pandemic. This, of course, created a lot of chaos and confusion in the teams that we already have internally. Okay, and I mentioned this last month. So just this past month, I had a meeting with the different groups that are new roles within guided pathways. And I went back and we read verbatim the job descriptions. We went bullet by bullet. When I said admissions navigators are supposed to help our students with pre-advising and placement and with registration, they looked at me asking why they weren't doing this prior to me having a conversation with them. It's because the guided pathway roles, they're great roles, but they were not implemented with fidelity. So what we're doing now is we're going back and we're working specifically on helping our teams understand what their roles are. And we are peeling the layers of the onion, identifying what is being done right, what is not being done right, what can be tweaked, and then truly analyze our processes and put the systems in place so that our students so that we can have a higher conversion rate of the students that apply, so that they don't just apply and stay there, but that they are converted into being enrollees at a faster rate. And now we have put those systems in place in time for the spring semester. So I'm excited about what we're doing, and I'm hopeful that we will see an increase in those students that were just holding on in a holding pattern within the funnel.
If I may just follow up,
yes.
I am pleased to hear that passion from you on this particular topic, because it's a very important focus point for an institution, because that is, like you said, the funnel, and then we want to make sure once we have them in there and make sure the funnel is wide enough for them not to get stuck or not really go through it. And once we have them in there as well, not to have any holes so our bucket kind of gets empty, and then we are working on a cycle that put them in and going right back out before they even finish. So, but I'm pleased to hear that passion they have on it, and that you exactly know where to. And I'm a little surprised that we haven't had this data before, you know, that would have helped you a lot more to actually make decisions as far as how can you tweak and make decisions as far as how you can make the process more, at least tighter, have more clarity, your teams have the expectation set up correctly. But I guess we were moving in that direction. And I thank you for your answer. Thank you.
I thank you, sir. Thank you.
Director Baker, do you have a question? Is your hand still up from before?
Sorry, my bad. I forgot to take it down.
Okay, I just want to make sure you didn't have another question.
No, I was just
I
waiting.
didn't. I haven't figured out how to raise my hand. I haven't figured out the internet, but anyway, a question. What of these new processes and directions that we're going, since somehow we didn't do them before, which are they different than we've done? Are they gonna change the way we're headed? I guess I'm concerned as to what happened that we didn't do this back a little further back. And now that we're going forward with a lot of them, are they the correct ones, or have we analyzed them to make sure that next year we won't say, we'll see now? You know what I'm saying? We didn't do it this time, but we got it right this time. So I guess I'm just a little concerned about that.
Concern is good because it always keeps us on our toes, right? So I would have to say that one of the things, I'm not going to say that everything that we've put on the SEM plan is new. Some of the things that we've put there are things that are already working. However, are we being intentional about our approaches? For example, having a bilingual rep at a high school where we know we have many of our students that do not speak English, right? Also, what are we doing exactly with dual enrollment? And how are we tapping into that as a market to then translate it into credits of students that will attend MATC once they finish high school? Furthermore, how are we doing with reverse transfers? I know that we've done that, but are we keeping the data on that? And how are we communicating to students who have left with only a few credits left in order for them to get their diploma, and they didn't get it because of that English or mathematics that was pending on their file? But who's to say that they're not elsewhere, and perhaps we can transfer those credits back and give them a diploma? So again, I'm not saying that everything we're putting on the plan is new. What I'm saying, however, we are now going to be a lot more intentional. We are going to measure. We're measuring every single effort, because at the end of the day, I have to support why I need a new person, why I need a bilingual rep, why I need a recruiter. We need to support through the data that will help us identify the ROI on our efforts. Some of the things that you also see on that plan, they are new, because they are new things that we're bringing on. Why they weren't done in the past, I cannot say. I've only been at the institution for about 11 months now, but I will tell you that the experience that I bring forth, in addition to the team that I have around me, we will make sure that enrollment continues to be at the forefront of everything that we do. And I'm not going to tell you everything is going to be peachy and rosy. We will tell you things as they are, the good things and the not so good things, and what our challenges are, so that you can help us and help us think outside the box ways, so that we can continue to grow and improve upon the work that we're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to you and your team today for providing us a very comprehensive report on our strategic enrollment. I think a lot of our board members have said that it was very comprehensive and provided to us, and I think are excited about having this data and listening to you speak with very much passion about it, and getting to some of the root cause of some of that, and then eventually to solutions. So thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Chair Olson, if I may, just
sure.
to address Director Wilson's comments. I mentioned in my report that we do have our Vice President of Institutional Effectiveness who is looking at all those systems and processes as well to hopefully, as Dr. Gonzalez de Jesus just mentioned, have real fidelity towards those processes and look at process improvements. So it's a lot of having to do with new systems, new processes coming up during the pandemic when we were at home and in and out of our institution. And so we're going to make sure that we have a systematic process for really assessing how well those processes are really doing as well. So I know that Dr. Mannion will be talking later about the moonshot, and she may want to say just a couple words about that later. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. We are ready to move on to the Milwaukee PBS General Manager's Report with Bodan Zachary.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Olson, board members, Dr. Martin, and guests. I'll begin with a recap of the success that was and continues to be the Milwaukee PBS broadcast and production of the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra. The live event happened October 2nd, and it was a resounding success with viewers in the Milwaukee region, as well as some very unexpected other places around the world. The October 2nd live special received enormous ratings. In addition to the television special, we streamed the performance on our website, milwaukeepbs.org. What's been a big surprise is that over 4,000 people watched in real time the concert. And here's the interesting part. We geo-filtered the performance so that only those in Southeast Wisconsin should have been the only ones to see the show. But we know for a fact that viewers in far off places used VPN to spoof being in Milwaukee. And that's why we also saw viewers from Portugal, Ireland, Finland, United Arab Emirates, China, Germany, and the Netherlands. The MSO special will air nationally on PBS on December 17th. A big round of thank yous goes out to the wonderful Milwaukee PBS engineers, producers, and staff members who made the show possible. The other program I want to tell you about is the culmination of a 2-year collaboration with the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. It's a documentary titled America's Dairyland at the Crossroads. The hour-long documentary is really powerful, and it's a reminder of the kind of important story Milwaukee PBS does so well. The state's dairy history is an essential part of the state's culture and an economic engine that generates $45 billion a year. Much of that sustaining main streets in rural Wisconsin. All of it is at risk. The numbers are staggering. Since 2000, Wisconsin has lost 71% of its dairy farms. The vast majority of those are small dairy farmers. We're seeing a real tectonic shift in this industry right before our eyes. Dairy farmers are at the crossroads of either adapting or calling it quits. The documentary will premiere on Thursday, November 18th, and ahead of our television broadcast, the Rotary Club will feature Milwaukee PBS producer Marianne Lazarski and Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel reporter Rick Barrett at a Rotary event on November 16th. It'll be also Zoomed, and I'll be happy to send you the link to the event. Thanks for your support of what Milwaukee PBS is able to accomplish. That's my report for this month. Thank you.
Great. I don't see any questions or follow-ups, but thank you very much for that report and update, Bodan.
Thank you.
Next, we have our Legislative Matters Report with Remy Zankova, and there she is.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'll highlight a couple of items, updates from the last board meeting, and several additions added to the report for this evening. First, I'll start with Senate Bill 323. Its companion bill is Assembly Bill 195. It's the third item on the report. That proposal would require technical college sports teams be based on the sex of participants. It was scheduled for a committee vote last week, and it failed committee. It came out of committee 2-3. One Republican senator joined the Democrats in opposing. Technically, that legislation can still be scheduled for a floor vote. It's rare, but it does happen. But certainly that non-recommendation from committee is a relevant one as senators discuss the proposal moving forward. Also, Senate Bill 410 and its companion Assembly Bill 414. This is specific to training provided by employees of local and state government specific to sex and race stereotyping. That proposal has passed the Assembly. Senate action is pending. So the new action there is that it had passed the Assembly 60-38. So wanted to bring forward both of those updates to you this evening. Lower in the report, I've highlighted a new item, a new addition, Fixing Foundation's Housing Initiative. This is a legislative Republican package that was circulated very quickly and introduced. Technically, my report's already out of date because there's been action on the items since I drafted the report. It's led by Assembly Republicans primarily, so we're yet to see where it will go in the Senate. I wanted to include this because I know housing and affordable housing is important to our students. I know we have students who struggle with homelessness, so I thought important to include this so everyone is aware of some of the proposals circulating. Some of the items are very specific to tax assessment practices. So more of a, for your information report for purposes of this evening. I wanted to specifically highlight the proposal on local housing investment fund opportunities, which the city of Milwaukee also supports. That particular proposal did move out of committee 10-0. So there's bipartisan support there. I can certainly provide more information for those who are interested. It's sort of like a hybrid TIF approach. It would temporarily remove those tax assessments from all taxing authorities, but those dollars then could be collected and focused on affordable housing options. So again, happy to provide more detail there, but I wanted to specifically highlight that proposal of all of the proposals itemized under the Fixing Foundation's housing initiatives. The bill passed the Assembly today. The Assembly was in session on the floor. It would still need to move through the Senate before it could land on the governor's desk. Also wanted to highlight a new item, Reaching for Higher Education package. This has been circulated by legislative Democrats. 2 items there, which certainly we would be supportive of. Large fiscal estimates attached to them. Difficult, of course, just given the politics and that we're outside of the budget process right now, but the proposals would increase funding for both Wisconsin grants for technical college students, but also state aid for technical colleges by a substantial dollar amount. Normally I leave some of the bigger items that we all see headlines on already in the newspaper off of my report, but because these have been such big items and there's been some recent traction, I thought very relevant to include in the report because it gives us a good sense of what the legislature is really going to be focused on for the next couple of months, and that's both redistricting and the election review. Last week, legislative Republicans unveiled their proposed maps for redistricting. A hearing will be scheduled on the map, a hearing is already scheduled for Thursday of this week. And then Governor Evers, of course, has his commission also expected to release a second round of maps. Ultimately, I expect the maps to be vetoed and this will end up in court and courts will draw the lines, but I wanted to just include this again as an update. It's a very relevant topic. A lot of attention will be on this issue for the remainder of this year for sure, and throughout the session. And then also same with the election review. Certainly a lot of headlines there. The Nonpartisan Legislative Audit Bureau did release its report and documented a number of areas that could be improved upon, but did not identify any fraud. There are ongoing election reviews that have been authorized by the legislature. But again, just wanted to include this because it's a headline that we've seen a lot about. And again, just to demonstrate some of the topics that will take up space as we finish up the year here in this legislative session. And then very briefly at the federal level, the American Association of Community Colleges, they're reporting that the Americans College Promise Act is likely to be excluded from the Build Back Better plan as that package is being negotiated. So certainly disappointing there. And I also wanted to just highlight 2 other items of interest and importance. The Department of Education is looking at new rules specific to Second Chance Pell. We are a Second Chance Pell site. So certainly I'll defer to the experts in that space, Dr. Sadiq Kizaku in particular, who works with that program. There could be some opportunity there to comment on. And then also the Department of Homeland Security is now has a proposed rule specific to DACA recipients, which has sort of aligned with what we've seen in the past, that those DACA recipients should not be a priority for removal. So with that, I'll end my report and take any questions.
Just one quick one is, Remy, is there anything, again, that you need from the board in terms of advocacy on, I'm thinking in particular on the federal matters? Is there something from ACCT or anything that you would like us to sign on to in terms of particularly those two federal matters?
Sure, I think what I can do, and Janice and I spoke about this the other day, and I know we have an upcoming task force meeting, which of course timing is everything, as we know in politics. So let me find out through the ACCT partners, sorry, if there's something specific we can do to certainly voice our support or assistance for the College Promise in particular. And if there's anything relevant to both DACA or Second Chance Pell. I don't have an answer for you specifically. Certainly we want to be aligned with what folks are suggesting we do at the federal level, but I'll connect on that and I can round back with you and the board on that.
I do not see any other questions or hands or mouths moving. So I think we're good for right now, Remy. So thank you very much for your report and updates.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Yep, you too. We are now ready to move on to the board monitoring section of the agenda. And there are 2 items there since we dealt with the third one already. So if you're keeping track of the time, remember that we have dealt with one of those items there a little bit already. So our first one is the pathway presentation on the online 21st century. And Dr. Dakwar will be presenting that.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chair Olson. As you may expect, phenomenal growth in online education. This is mainly due to COVID, but it's created a lot of opportunities for our students and community. Not only that we'd like to sustain it, but also grow it. And we have the opportunity to do so. Just to give you a sense of data, this semester we have almost 1/3 of our classes offered online or virtual, 20%, 1 out of 5 courses offered as blended or hybrid. You get the idea. It's just a lot of courses dominating the way we do business here. Also, we have programs that are virtually online, 28 of them. In addition to this, we have almost the same number of programs that offer their technical courses online. In addition to that, we have almost 1,500 courses offered online. So you get the idea. It's a lot of online business. It's really great. And what we're looking into at this time is the best ways to meet the evolving needs of our students and community and build more quality, not only our instruction, but also in our services. So this is basically what I want to talk to you about tonight. And we have Dr. Pam Holt to present briefly to you, and then we'll take questions after her presentation. I also wanted to remind you that we did share the presentation with you. It's pre-recorded, so feel free to listen to it and let us know if you have additional questions as well. With that, I'm going to defer to Dr. Holt.
Good evening. I will make this as concise as possible. Thank you all for allowing me to share some highlights of the online campus and online learning direction. Chair Olson, directors, Dr. Martin, and our esteemed colleagues. Some of the very exciting things that I would consider game changers are the design for the online campus. We are modeling it to be a holistic student support experience. We do very well to ensure that our faculty are supported and that the deans, the advisory committees, they're all entwined together to ensure that we have currency of our curriculum. We can move models and programs forward, but we need to hone in on our students and the support and success of them in an online venue. So that's why the model is based on student support. Another game changer is the addition of the online orientation. This will give us 2 pathways. One is that we will have a fully virtual orientation for new students. In addition to that, we will have a second module which will be specifically for online students and online readiness, so that they understand the requirements of online learning. And they have some resources to kind of put in their toolkit for success, like managing time and procrastination and reaching out for resources and things like that. We are also standing up the Online Student Success Council, which is collaborative. It is involving all of the support areas that would traditionally support in-person students, but now in an online format. So things from like moving to open educational resources or digitizing books, to adding information for our veteran students and translating all of our student support materials into Spanish, as well as looking at a method for our students to be able to translate live instruction for our virtual options. So we're thinking very broadly of our students and trying to accommodate as much as possible. I have 3 pages of initiatives, but I won't go into each one. I would enjoy any questions that you have, and I'm very excited about this initiative. So ask away.
Director Baker.
Quick one, just a quick one. I always feel bad for the people whose reports are at the end, like you think we're going to snooze by this time. So we are paying attention. Just, I anticipate your answer is no, but is there any additional cost incurred with this transition? Anything that we don't know about budgetarily that this would entail for us? Because it sounds great. So
I'll be glad to address the first portion of it, and that is from a student perspective. In fact, we used to have a technology fee that we dropped. So in a way, we're trying to really kind of encourage more students to at least, try our online courses and so on. As far as the structure itself and so on, yes, technology cost is high. Luckily, with the refunds and so on and so forth, we've been able to kind of do a lot. But to be honest with you, as far as support and training, we invest in big ways. And you got to think of this in terms of infrastructure. We have the faculty and staff on one side, we have our students on one side, we have the digital divide on one side. So we need to be not only the technology, the infrastructure, it's a support mechanism that goes with it. But I'll turn over to the expert here, Pam Holt.
So I am a budget person. I like to get the best buy for the college. So we do some really good negotiations to make sure that our technology is at a very good price. The other budget items that we need to think of is the support model for the students. We want to make sure our Hispanic students have the support that they need. So we would like to have at least a part-time 3/4 person to support that and to work as we develop that online community so that we can not only satisfy the students now, but then the students of tomorrow. I think that as awareness gets out there, our student body will increase. We have right now a very nice amount of students from out of state that should increase. We've had a dean support a student who was actually on an aircraft carrier. So we have veteran students as well. And this really opens up the possibilities for the college. Mm-hmm.
Question.
Yes.
Are we going to have a student or so on this council, or is there going to be some way that the students can weigh in and say, this is working, it's not working, or maybe you should consider this, instead of all faculty, because sometimes it's best to ask the people receiving the service what they think, and then they come up with some things that you might could do a little better.
Absolutely. I love talking to our students. I'm from the community. So we, of course, will add students to our Online Student Success Council because it is about them and we want and need their input. We also have a town hall. We are planning for our online students to go live or be offered on November 12th. That's our anticipated date. And so we are working towards making that public knowledge.
Thank you. Send me a link. I'd be interested in hearing it.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you both for that presentation and keeping it succinct. And we did receive the more elaborate presentation in advance for board members to receive that. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We are ready to move on to item B, which is the EAB Moonshot Projects Update with Dr. Christine Mannion.
Great, thank you, Chair Olson, and good evening, everybody. Prior to today's meeting, you were sent a slide deck and a video that walk through the updates of our EAB Moonshot for Equity projects, hold reforms, retention grants, coordinated care, and transfer pathways. And in the interest of time, we have no additional comments tonight, but we do have our team leaders on the call. If you do have questions about Director Baker, we will not feel bad if you don't have any. We're okay with that. So, but we are here to answer anything. Thanks. It was a darn good video. I recognize that part. So probably that's why you don't have any questions.
Well,
we have very good team.
You didn't give me a chance to say so, but that was one of the better videos that I've seen. I have to admit, that's not why I don't have any questions, but it really was a good video.
Thank you, Director Wilson.
And we do acknowledge your teammates who are here in person, even though that the video was given in advance. So we do recognize that. And again, to Director Baker's comment, don't take that as anything in that we don't have questions or are not interested in the topic or where you fell on the agenda at all. I'm not seeing any. I just want to give people a second to catch up. I'm missing a few on the spotlight right now, but I'm not seeing any questions. I would agree with the video. That was very helpful getting that in advance and hearing that. So.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you to, again, the 4 leads here, and they each have a partner that they're also working on with the projects, and they're all doing a great job. So thank you for their leadership.
Great. That's it if we don't have anything else. So item C, as I said before, we had already addressed earlier. It was the health and safety update. So we are moving on to our agenda where it says new business. Item 9. Does anybody have any new business? Okay. Item 10 is future events and announcements. As shared previously, the Technical College System fall meeting and legal updates, which is virtual, is coming up. So if you'd still like to attend, please let Gwen know. Our district board meeting next is on Tuesday, November 23rd, a couple days before the Thanksgiving Day. And then we also previously announced the winter commencement with a few more details coming out there, but please mark that on your calendars. So at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I would move to adjourn, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Hamilton. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Baker. So we have a motion by Director Hamilton and a second by Director Baker to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Great. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for all the reports in that, and thanks for your attention tonight. We will see you next month.